is CGTN, China Global Television Network. Live from London, this is The World Today.
I'm Paul Barber with the top stories this hour. The last city falls. Russia says it's taking the final Ukrainian stronghold in Luhansk. High winds and rising waters, the first typhoon of the year, slams into southern China. COVID, monkeypox and seasonal flu. Britain braces itself for 3 different outbreaks at the same time. And the European firefighting task force arriving from all over the continent to help Greece battle wildfires. Russia says it has taken the key city of Lysychansk, the last major Ukrainian-held town in Luhansk province. The capture would move Moscow closer to its aim of controlling the entire Donbas region. Reports from the mayor of Sloviansk, one of the biggest cities in Donetsk, the other key province in Donbas that is still under Ukrainian control, says many people have been killed after shelling from multiple rocket launchers. Our correspondent Johannes Pleshberger is live in Kiev. Johannes, what more can you tell us about Lysychansk?
Russia claims that it has successfully occupied the city of Lysychansk and thus taking over the whole territory of the province of Luhansk. More precisely, Russia said it has freed Luhansk. Now, Ukraine, the government here in Kiev, has not confirmed this yet, but they have said even if Russia takes over Lysychansk, this would not mean game over for the whole Donbas area, which consists of Luhansk and Donetsk, because as a matter of fact, Ukraine is still controlling roughly 40% of the territory of the Donetsk province, and the heavy fighting seems to be continuing exactly there.
And Johannes, what more can you tell us about these reports we've been getting about multiple casualties in the city of Sloviansk?
Yes, the mayor of the city of Sloviansk reported that there have been at least 6 killings due to multiple rocket launchers activated by Russian troops. And also, meanwhile, shelling is continuing as well in the city of Kramatorsk, which is close to Sloviansk, and both are not far from the front line.
Moscow accusing Ukrainians of hitting civilian targets in the Russian border city of Belgorod. What more can you tell us?
Well, the governor of the region of Belgorod, the Russian governor, said that at least 3 civilians have been killed during these alleged attacks. There have been multiple explosions which damaged dozens of residential buildings in the city of Belgorod. And Russia is accusing Ukraine of having launched these alleged attacks, and Russia has even started a criminal case against Ukraine concerning these explosions. Ukraine did not answer to this, they did not really react, but previously when Russia had been claiming that Ukraine has launched attacks against Russian soil, Ukraine has responded that these explosions are karma and payback.
And we're hearing that Turkey has detained a Russian cargo ship carrying grain from Ukraine. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, this ship has been reported to be seen at the port of Karasu. This is a Turkish port city at the Black Sea, and these reporters have seen the Russian ship, a Russian cargo ship, which is allegedly carrying stolen grain that Russia has stolen from Ukraine, according to Ukrainian comments. And the Ukrainian ambassador has also confirmed that this ship is currently being detained by Turkish custom controls.
Many thanks, Johannes. Johannes Pleshberger in Kiev. And moving on to other news, Typhoon Chaba has brought heavy rain and strong winds to southern China. In the waters off Hong Kong, search and rescue operations continue for 27 crew members still missing from a vessel that sank on Saturday. Authorities have dispatched planes and helicopters to aid the operation. Our correspondent Xiao Chufeng reports from Guangzhou.
Typhoon Chaba is obviously hampering the rescue efforts for missing crew members of Fujin 001. The storm was what caused this incident in the first place. The owner of the vessel said Fujin 001 was carrying out engineering works on offshore wind power plants, and the crew members did try to avoid Typhoon Chaba, but the wind was too strong and the waves were as high as 10 meters during one point. After the chain of the anchor broke, they lost control of this vessel. This afternoon, Hong Kong authorities held a press conference. They said they had expanded the rescue and search efforts, and government flying service dispatched its entire fleet of aircrafts, including helicopters. But the strong wind is making it quite dangerous. At the same time, the search area is littered with over 100 massive windmills, which is also making it quite difficult for pilots. Now, one piece of positive news, the owner of the vessel said all crew members were wearing life jackets, which could increase their chance of survival. In terms of the general weather conditions here, as you probably can see, the rain has stopped here in the city of Guangzhou, but it was raining the whole day today. Even though Typhoon Chaba has moved towards Guangxi and it has weakened, but the level of rain during daytime today is just as similar as yesterday. Typhoon Chaba is expected to move even further north, and China's central province of Henan and eastern province of Shandong are expected to see some effects of it. Weather authorities said June is normally the start of the typhoon season for China, and this year the start of typhoon season is a little later than normal. But now with Typhoon Chaba making a landfall, we are probably going to expect more rainstorms in the near future here in the southern part of China. Cao Chufeng, CGTN, Guangzhou.
Well, China's southern island province of Hainan was hit hard by Typhoon Chaba on Saturday. Massive rainstorms and high winds caused intense flooding and structural damage. Lao Zhu of Sansha TV reports from the province's capital, Haikou.
It's around 5 p.m. and I'm now in Haikou, the capital of Hainan province. It's been less than 24 hours since Typhoon Chaba swept across the northeastern parts of the province. And as you can see, there's still some water from the river in some streets, and there's still rain and relatively strong wind. The shopping malls, however, have resumed operations, and Typhoon Chaba has made landfall in Guangdong province. Before Chaba's arrival, Haikou launched an emergency response. This included making sure local markets were well stocked with affordable and essential goods.
Even affected by the weather, our prices have not changed. We have prepared almost 1,000 kilograms, which is a sufficient amount.
The storm eventually took its toll on important infrastructure. The Sanya-Sanling Reservoir collapsed due to intense pressure from the extreme weather, suddenly threatening downstream villages and farmland. Authorities quickly assembled a team of 200 people to try to minimize the damage.
After our team was in place, part of the dam had been washed away by the flood. With the help of firefighters, we quickly carried sandbags down from the top of the dam to fix the damage.
The storm also affected travel onto and off the island. Many flights were delayed or cancelled on Saturday. Hainan's high-speed rail and other travel services are resuming operations on Sunday, as are the island's main seaports. Liao Zhu, Sansha TV in Haikou for CGTN.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has arrived in Myanmar for a meeting about the Chang Mekong River Cooperation. It's the grouping of countries including Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Myanmar that lie along the two rivers. Martin Lowe has more.
Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi is the most high-ranking Chinese official to visit Myanmar since a military takeover last year. He's attending a meeting of the Chang Mekong Organization, which safeguards the future of the Mekong River. But his visit comes amid reports that the former civilian de facto leader of the country, Aung San Suu Kyi, has been moved from house arrest to prison. Ms. Suu Kyi has been sentenced so far to 11 years on corruption and other charges, which her supporters say are politically motivated. The junta insists the trials were fair. At the meeting, talks are centred on competing demands on the Mekong. For centuries, it's provided fish and food to feed millions of people. But now, dams have been built to generate hydroelectric power. The foreign ministers of the 6 countries the Mekong flows through are also discussing a 5-year plan for the river's sustainability.
Martin Lowe reporting there from Bangkok. Still ahead here on CGTN, spot the difference. Why this revolutionary tomato is causing so much controversy here in the UK.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliet Mann.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos? And unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
This week on Razor, how light pollution is affecting astronomy and how smart city technology can help. And indoor vertical farming, a sustainable alternative to traditional farming.
One of the good things about not using soil and having a system like this, which is relatively contained, is that we don't have to use any pesticides or herbicides or fungicides. The idea is for this to be a much more sustainable approach.
Hi there, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. The last city falls. Russia says it has taken the final Ukrainian stronghold in Luhansk. High winds and rising waters. The first typhoon of the year slams into southern China. Well, UK health officials are warning of a potential triple virus threat. COVID cases are soaring, with worries over the festive season becoming a series of potential super spreader events. Monkeypox cases are rising much faster than initially predicted, and there are now worries that the annual wave of flu could start 2 months earlier. Naweed Jabarkil is following this for us. Naweed, so what's going on? 3 outbreaks at the same time.
Yeah, 3 different viruses, and this warning coming from the UK Health Security Agency. Its Chief Medical Advisor, Dr. Susan Hopkins. Flu usually starts around November, late November, December here in the UK. It could be a lot sooner in September this year, and that's going to add pressure at a time when they're already monitoring 2 other diseases in the UK, COVID-19 and monkeypox as well. But we haven't really had a normal flu season here for a couple of years now, since the pandemic began, because of lockdowns partially and the focus on COVID-19. And that means that there are worries about the level of immunity in the general population when it comes to the flu. But if you look at COVID-19, as you say, case numbers soaring, really 285,000 on average each day. That's up almost a third in the space of a week. Now, the current wave is likely to continue for a few more weeks, it's thought, experts say, and there's going to be another wave, almost certainly, Dr. Hopkins said, in the autumn or winter. What sorts of pressures will that have on health systems here in the UK? But if you look at the total figures, 350,000 was a record figure back in March, not too long ago, in terms of daily infection rates. So not quite there yet, but there are suggestions by some experts that we could reach the 300,000 mark if cases continue rising. Monkeypox is the other concern here. On the 26th of June, the latest figures available, 1,076 cases, a rise of about 10% on the previous week. Once again, that's one of the highest rates internationally. It means every day in the UK, about 20 to 40 cases are being identified. Only a handful of those are in women, and health officials say it's largely spreading among gay and bisexual men, which is where they're trying to target their health advice at the moment. And these festivals, as you mentioned, both of those, COVID-19 and monkeypox, areas of concern. We had Glastonbury Music Festival earlier this week, lots of other music festivals this summer still to come, tens of thousands of people getting together, worries about COVID-19 spreading. And yesterday in London, we had the 50th anniversary of the Pride Festival, a big celebration, but still tens of thousands of revellers getting together, again causing concern about potentially these diseases spreading.
And can the healthcare system cope with this? We're a long way from the grip of COVID, but still a lot of pressure for the NHS.
Yeah, and there were other waves of the virus which caused a lot of pressure on health services. In particular, about a year and a half ago was particularly bad, and early on in the virus as well. I think the big differentiator now is the vaccination and vaccine rates. The UK raced ahead much of the rest of the world, the first in Europe to give 50% of its population a jab, and it's invested a lot of money in that. Officials are insistent that the reason they decided to open up earlier this year and get rid of the rules and regulations around COVID was because they trusted the vaccines. Now, this new wave of COVID is being driven by something called BA.5. It's a subvariant of the Omicron variant of the virus, and still some uncertainty about what that means. So will these vaccines still be effective against BA.5? What if a new subvariant emerges? So those questions will be the sorts being asked of officials at the moment, but they're insisting, as things stand now, the vaccination rates are very, very high, and the fourth jab, getting the booster, the fourth jab out to large parts of the population could be a focus now in the months ahead.
And of course it's summer, everyone's enjoying being outside. The thought of potential lockdowns, the last thing anyone wants to think about, is that being mooted at all?
Yeah, well, I think lots of people may have forgotten what lockdown feels like, even though it was only in February that the government decided to lift all the regulations here in England, and staggered approaches in Scotland and Wales as well, and Northern Ireland. But in terms of the decision-making, the politics matters here as well. It's not just about the economic impact of lockdowns or the health concerns that these experts are raising. Boris Johnson took a big gamble by getting rid of those regulations. There was a lot of pressure from his Conservative Party, his own colleagues and lawmakers, who said the damage this is doing, these lockdowns, is just too severe. Because of that reason, I suspect that Downing Street will try and resist lockdowns if they can. Instead, that means that they're going to have to focus their efforts on vaccination rates, looking at a fourth booster jab, potentially a fifth one as well in the autumn and winter for those who've already had their fourth.
Naweed, thank you very much indeed. The British government has presented a bill aimed at relaxing laws on the gene editing of crops. If passed, it will roll back European Union legislation and allow more extensive development of gene-edited plants. But as Kitty Logan reports, not everybody is in favour.
Flourishing in a warm greenhouse, these look like ordinary tomato plants. But they have vitamin D added by a gene-editing process.
This is vitamin D tomato, and this is the normal tomato. You can't really tell the difference just by looking. So what we're doing here...
Chinese student Ji Li is a researcher at the John Innes Centre. She says these vitamin-enriched tomatoes could help solve a global problem of vitamin D deficiency.
I'm quite excited about the vitamin D enriched tomatoes. Firstly, it provides a dietary source as a food source of vitamin D, which is it's a vegan-friendly and plant-based vitamin D source.
Plants naturally have the basis for low levels of vitamin D. Now, scientists have learned how to boost it in the fruit itself.
By using gene editing, we precisely switched off one gene, which converts the provitamin D3 to other molecules in plants. By doing so, we are able to accumulate provitamin D3 in tomatoes.
The gene-edited tomato plant leaves are high in vitamin D2, meaning they could be used to produce food supplements. The centre is conducting trials on wheat too. The aim, to develop strains resistant to conditions like extreme heat. The future of some of our food could be here in this lab. Researchers believe that gene editing technology could one day help overcome some of the global food issues linked to climate change. The UK government says changing existing EU laws on gene editing will allow scientists greater potential to develop ideas. But not everyone backs the idea of gene editing. A recent government poll showed over a third of the British public found the process unacceptable.
All of the concerns that we have about first-generation GM are being repeated with the so-called gene-edited GMOs. So there's some new techniques, but it's the same model.
The new law to regulate gene editing could be passed by this summer, but those opposed to it are concerned about insufficient labelling and controls.
What the government are proposing is a mass deregulation. So that's the removal of independent safety checks, the removal of traceability. So, these GMOs will be let out into the environment with no control and no monitoring whatsoever.
If the legislation changes, these gene-edited tomatoes could be on supermarket shelves in around 2 years' time. The UK government says it's committed to high food safety standards and assures there is no health risk. Whether the consumer will choose the unknown remains to be seen. Kitty Logan, CGTN, Norwich.
Israel says it's intercepted 3 drones launched by Lebanon's Hezbollah group that were headed towards an offshore Mediterranean gas rig. Hezbollah confirmed it sent the unarmed drones and says the message was delivered. There are tensions between the two countries over the ownership of the Karish gas field, with the US acting as a mediator to try and agree on a maritime border. At least 19 people were killed when a bus plunged into a ravine in southwest Pakistan. Rescue workers are searching for wreckage for the survivors. There were about 35 passengers on board when the bus apparently slid on the wet road in heavy rain and fell more than 60 metres. Last month, 22 people died in a similar accident when a bus fell into a ravine in the northwest of the country. One person has been killed in Sydney and tens of thousands have been told to evacuate their homes after flash flooding and heavy rain caused what Australian officials called a life-threatening emergency situation. Rain is expected to intensify on Sunday night. The area was also hit by flash flooding back in March, killing 20 people. Firefighters have been arriving in Greece from across Europe to offer help ahead of what's expected to be a hot and dry summer. It's part of an EU initiative aimed at preventing a repeat of last year's disastrous wildfires. Evangelos Sipsas reports from Athens.
Last year, wildfires swept through huge swaths of Greek mainland and its islands. Thousands of hectares of forest, homes, and wildlife habitat were destroyed. 3 people were killed and 20 injured. In an effort to avoid a repeat of that tragedy, the first batch of some 200 foreign firefighters have arrived in Greece to provide immediate support in an event of wildfires. The group, made up of 28 Romanian specialist personnel, along with 8 operational vehicles, are part of an EU-funded pilot project. It's the latest in the several exchanges between European countries. Greece has not yet been hit by any major wildfires this year, but the pre-positioning of beefed-up resources is seen as crucial, and those coming to help say they're prepared for the challenges ahead.
We have previous experience in Greece as we were here last year. We know the landscape and we are happy to be here and assist local services, and we look forward to suppress any wildfires that might break out.
The Romanian group will be stationed near Athens until the end of July. But Romania is not the only country that answered the call for support. Bulgaria, Finland, France, Germany, and Norway will all send personnel and equipment to provide immediate support in the event of major wildfires. In that case, the force of foreign firefighters will reach a total of 200. The assistance, financed and coordinated under the EU's civil protection measures, are aimed at supporting countries prevent and tackling natural disasters. The personnel and equipment behind me are sent here in Greece to fight wildfires, but many see this exchange as more than just a cooperation.
Pilot project, το πρόγραμμα προεγκατάστασης. The pilot project, called Pre-Positioning, is a project discussed between many European nations, including the Commission. We discussed it as part of the EU's civil protection mechanism. It was a Greek suggestion, and our colleagues from Romania and also other EU countries accepted the call. They understood how important it is, not only for support, but it also shows European solidarity.
Athens recently announced the purchase of 15 additional firefighting aircrafts and helicopters, bringing its total aerial force to 93. It's hoped the new equipment and additional EU firefighters will help it be better prepared to prevent a repeat of last year's devastating wildfires. Evangelos Ipsas for CGTN, Athens.
Cars powered by fossil fuels will become a thing of the past, at least in the US state of California. The sale of passenger vehicles with engines will be banned there by 2035. The state is aiming to ramp up sales of electric vehicles in various stages in an attempt to meet its climate and clean energy goals, but not everyone supports the plan. Our correspondent Detained Chang reports.
Electric vehicles will be the only option for car buyers in 2035, according to a new plan by California Air Resources Board. It follows a 2020 executive order by the state's governor, who vowed to phase out cars with combustion engines within 15 years. But the order does not prevent people from owning gas-owned cars or selling them.
We will eliminate in the state of California the sales of internal combustion engines. We will move forward to green and decarbonize our vehicle fleet here in the state of California. As a consequence, substantially reducing greenhouse gas emissions as well as oxide nitrogen.
He says 41% of California emissions are directly related to vehicles and another 11% to the production of petroleum fuels. Some state industry leaders have criticized the move.
And even under the governor's plan, a lot of these scenarios, it is not fossil fuel free in 15 years. The governor's plan, which people question whether you can get there, still says that you're going to have gasoline powered cars on the road. There's just talking about not selling new ones 15 years from now.
But the transition could lead to nearly 32,000 mechanics to lose their jobs by 2040, according to state projections, and electric companies would be the big winners. According to the CARB, California's electric car sales rose more than 12% of all vehicle sales in 2021, an increase from nearly 8% during 2020. Experts say shifting to clean energy could improve air quality in a state where the transportation sector accounts for roughly 40% of air pollution.
When we tackle climate change, we actually also solve our local air pollution problems, because somehow they are correlated and they have to do with the kinds of fuels that our vehicles and our trucks use.
At least 15 other states across the country have adopted California's vehicle standards rules. The California Air Resources Board is expected to vote on the proposal in August. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.
The headlines again this hour. The last city falls as Russia says it has taken the final Ukrainian stronghold in Luhansk. High winds and rising waters, the first typhoon of the year slams into southern China. And COVID, monkeypox and seasonal flu, Britain is bracing itself for 3 different outbreaks at the same time. And that is The World Today. Thanks for watching. More news at the top of the hour. Coming up next, it's Razor. For now, from all the team in London, bye-bye.